Okay, let's dive into induction. So as you recall, we talked quite a bit about this last October. A lot of mixed feedback, I think, on this one last time. But so what we're talking about here are electric ranges or cooktops, so both of those products that use electromagnetic induction to heat cookware directly. And since I've seen you last, I actually bought one, and I've been using it a lot and learned a lot. It's been really fun. And I think that's the current product we're talking about. In the future, we're really looking at this MTI, making sure that there's more product, 24-inch and more diverse product. It's not positioned as a premium product, that it's a more, commodity-like product, and that's more affordable. Those are some of the two important features we see in this, you can get involved in this market right now. Okay. I'm just going to keep rolling, and if you have questions, stop. I don't. Next slide, please. Oh, there we go. Sorry, no, you're already there. We're targeting all residential properties with a focus on ESJ customers. So we know these products are out there. They're expensive, but we do see an opportunity to make them more affordable and more ubiquitous with that. We have some leverage points already, possible leverage point, the retail channels we've already talked about. Title 24 and building codes, folks moving to electrification. This is a good tool in the toolbox for that. The CARB programs, Energy Star, and the IRA funding are all some of the possible leverage points here. Again, here's our high-level logic model. We don't need to stop here. We're going to go straight in. So some of the barriers, and we've talked a little bit about some of these in the past, but let's just review them. So we have higher costs. We've also talked about. We do think, there is product that we've seen out there that's in the range of, in shooting distance of a gas stove, right? 900,000, right around there. But most of them come with all the premium bells and whistles and are more in the 2,000 to 5,000 range, right? So that is definitely a barrier and something we need to work on. We definitely know that there's a limited electrical panel capacity. In some cases that really, especially people that have a gas stove and converting over, that's a barrier we need to work on. Can we get 120 volt product, things like that could surmount that barrier. Probably the biggest one is this consumer attachment to gas cooking. I had a great Lyft driver conversation the other day on my way down here, and he said, "Not out of my cold dead hand. Are you going to take my gas stove?" He loves it. It's been around 2,000 years. It's not going to. I didn't want to correct him on that one, but anyway, it was an interesting conversation. And we have a lot of things wrapped into those barriers, we think. It's a new way of cooking. It's you don't get the flame, the visuals of all that. There's potentially misinformation about the impacts of these stoves on folks with pacemakers, things like that. Just overall cultural acceptance of moving to this new technology could be all kind of encapsulated in that. And we might need to do marketing and messaging to specific audiences. They might have different cultural barriers and attachments to some of this. It's not just one set of messages, I think, on this product. We do have some technical challenges. We need more product that's built for multifamily, 24-inch. The idea of battery backup and people being able to cook when there's power outages. There is a product we've learned about in Berkeley. It's super cool. It has a battery backup in it, and it can power your refrigerator too during the backup. Super cool. Although it was like $5,000. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Specifics cooking, working. I had to get rid of my wok. I can't use my wok with my new stove. That was a bummer because it wasn't flat, right? So these are definitely technical challenges we want to work with manufacturers on. And of course, awareness of the benefits. People I don't think understand, as Lyft drivers certainly didn't understand the benefits of getting a gas combustion stove out of your house in terms of air quality, things like that. Like, oh, it's fine, I think that's something we really, and I think this is the benefit that we really need to dial up quickly. And I've learned it's really a fun cooking experience. It's fast. It's it's pretty interesting.
Another barrier you're missing is the cost of the cookware. I think it's significant. And I think maybe you want to put that in there because that's another issue. It's not just you have to have specialized cookware. Like I could go to Walmart and buy any kind of pan, but you couldn't do that with this, right?
You know, to carry a magnet with you, the store, yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I've
Everybody carries a magnet.
Yeah.
Go to Walmart, right?
You're right. Yeah. I've always had mismatched pots, and I think I found only 2 of mine didn't work. But people that have a full set, absolutely, like my sister who's moving to induction has to buy a whole new set. It's definitely a barrier, and I'll make sure it's in there. Okay, next slide, please. But some opportunities that are available here. We have a new Energy Star specification that went into play last month, I think. We had a great conversation with the program lead over there who we learned a lot about, all right, well, this is a new product category for them for cooking. Is there wiggle room to go farther over time? Is there a version 2 of this down the road? And we did learn that it was a negotiated spec and that there probably is room to go and more efficiency in, some of the electric resistance meet the current spec. The next spec would probably cut all of that off. But there is opportunity there. The overall California decarbonization public policy and public health federal programs that we could leverage. A lot of non-energy benefits, indoor air quality, faster cooking, and I think just the visibility of this product in the home as an electric product is a huge one, right? We remember that back in the days of front-loading washers, Margie, people would show off their front-loading washer because it was so cool. Well, this is definitely, people come to my house and like, wow, there's your new stove. It's all right there. I think it's an opportunity for electrification to highlight this product. The online retail platforms, for sure, opportunity there. And I think people do spend a lot of money on their kitchen remodels. It's one of the number one investments that people make, and that's an opportunity, I think, for us to exploit. Okay. Any others that folks want to?
Actually, I'm going to give Randall some credit here. We were having some conversation last night about is it possible to consider an intervention with this particular opportunity that looks a little like ductless heat pumps? So bear with me for a minute.
Okay.
In the Northwest, we've had this incredible success story with ductless heat pumps, but part of that success story is that we stumbled upon the idea that if we didn't try to solve the whole house problem and just provide enhanced comfort and a lot of energy savings for the main living area, that by solving part of the problem, we could actually unlock a market that has just taken off like a rocket. So the analogy to induction cooking would be there are a whole bunch of induction cooking 120 volt plug-in plates that people buy today for college dorm rooms and things like that. So one way to get to part of the benefits would be to try to encourage people to buy the induction cooking 2-burner appliance that they could plug into their, and put it on their countertop and experience the induction cooking thing that you're mentioning. Those benefits become real at a very low cost threshold. They're not spending $5,000,
Right.
$3,000. They're spending a few $100s. They don't have to upgrade their electrical service. And maybe if they started using it as a primary cooking appliance, we would see greenhouse gas reductions. We would get part of the way there. Better to get 50% of the savings than maybe all of them. gateway drug. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's one way to say
I
it.
just think as an intervention, that also opens the market to people who aren't doing a full kitchen remodel.
Mhm.
So from an equity standpoint, you would increase your market opportunity by tenfold or something like that, because the people who are in the market for a kitchen remodel is pretty small in any given year. So just wanted to throw that out as an intervention strategy and an opportunity.
And if you are brilliant, because you just gave me so. Jeff, you're brilliant. There you go. So one of the biggest, I mean, you guys know, you see the news, homelessness, right, is a huge challenge in the state of California. In the county of Los Angeles, we represent the homeless population. It's about, I think, from the state, 78%.
Wow.
Anyways, we are doing a lot of small housing. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
Microhousing. Mhm.
But they don't have, I think they're giving heat plates, but that is a great opportunity to get into the market, bring that on board. We could figure out something, but I really like, yeah, less dangerous. I like
Yeah.
your idea, Jeff. I didn't like this idea. In fact, I was like, yeah, I was ready to be like, this, I'm going to come and be like, when it gets filed, this isn't great. But if you did something like what Jeff just outlined and you targeted those type of target market segments,
Yeah.
that not only meets the ESG, but it also helps with equity. I mean, there's so many things. I think,
I think
that's all.
senior living is that way.
Yeah,
Like
senior living. There's just
the
so many other target markets you could kind of bring
absolutely.
this on. And so,
Yeah, and maybe those are the stepping stones to the broader market, but targeting those most vulnerable and that have the most benefit out of the gate is the way to go. Yes, thank you. Yeah, Randall.
Few things, some of them go back a ways, but that's okay. I think there's a perception on the cookware. I mean, when the new induction ranges first came out, I thought they were like the old ones. If you recall, the old ones, and maybe people still remember those, you had to use very specific types of cookware.
Mhm.
The magnet trick would not work for the cookware um, were for the, I'll call them first gen induction. So I think there's some perception issues
Right.
that have to be cleared up. The other perception issue is with gas in a power outage. Um, do we want people to cook with gas when their hood fan doesn't work?
Yeah. That's a great point.
And I don't know if there's an opportunity for those battery powered ranges to also power the hood fan,
Hmm.
because again, I don't think we really want people to cook even gas or electric without their hood fan. So um, I think I just want to make sure we think those things through from, health as well as resiliency standpoint. So, and I make a little bit of differentiation between cooktop and range because I think that's super important. There's plenty of 24-inch cooktops,
Mhm. Okay.
but ranges
Range,
is a
yeah.
totally different story. So that's why there needs to be that product differentiation. I think the way you've written it is fine, on the earlier slides, but I just wanted to make sure that the differentiation is clear. And then lastly, the opportunity is to, especially for those in the range market, to tell or to make sure that people who do a lot of baking are aware that an electric oven is better than gas ovens, and I think everybody agrees on that. Even the gas company, to some extent. Yeah. No, I mean, when I was at the gas company, we knew that was a huge, major, massive challenge to have, 30-inch convection wall ovens. They don't, So there's and a lot of, custom homes, they have a gas cooktop and an electric wall oven. So I think just from a customer preference standpoint, I'm not going to, but anyway, I think focusing on, we spend so much time on the cooktop, but if we could focus on the baking, um, and say, okay, maybe you can't heat your tortillas the way that you used to on an open flame, like I like. But if you do a lot of baking, you're going to have a far superior oven.
Mhm.
So, there may be that kind of thing that has to be, again, changing hearts and minds, perceptions, and all of that stuff, I think is part of the opportunities.
I think there's going to be a whole bundle of stuff around that for sure. Okay. Fred, are you there? Do you still have a question or a comment?
I just decided to put it in chat to save a little time. It's just an amendment to what Jeff said, so don't need to say it.
Okay. 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 Moving on here. So some interventions associated. This might be, again, a whole host of things around manufacturer engagement and, understanding what they're capable of, how to drive the specification for Energy Star higher. And, potential, I could imagine a partnership with manufacturers in co-marketing, right, with the ESRPP, right? That's maybe it's giving away pots at the same time. We've already seen some of that online. You can see that that there might be some intersection between manufacturer engagement and stocking practices, things like that. There could be interplay between some of these interventions. Obviously, leveraging current programs and new programs, working with the program you just mentioned, Luana, that would be a really interesting pilot and experience. There's a lot of momentum around this because of the IRA funding as well. Not sure about the HERS component, but yes. Is that what it's called? Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, there's some income qualification requirements, I think, for induction, but I think, yes, it's qualification. That's why they push the Energy Star spec so quickly. How do we get over the electrical panel challenge? That's going to be something we really need to think about. How to potentially bundle the purchase of induction when you're doing solar or doing some of these other improvements. Tricky with expense, but there's programs that are looking at that. We need to learn about that, and that's definitely a barrier for this product. Talked a little bit about building stocking practices and target ESJ. I think the pilot that we've identified, we would kind of co-implement for both induction and portables with ESRPP to gather data, potentially targeting ESJ communities with stocking practices on the more affordable products. A big bundle of stuff, as we talked about, around changing public opinion and building awareness around this. State and federal standard interventions definitely would be an important aspect of this work. Long-term code work on this, and product differentiation. So there's some familiar potential strategies here. Outcomes we might look at would be, increased models at different price points. Looking at the relationship between the gas and electric resistance prices and how that, that gap can be narrowed. More programs that promote it, and couple funding with IRA and other types of program funding. Looking at retailers and how their stocking practices. Are they starting to not stock the electric resistance old versions, or less numbers of gas stoves, things like that we could gauge over time. Market share, of course, we can track that. you know, are there, this one is tricky, increasing number of local decarbonization policies in new construction. If there are more of these policies and this is a tool for helping builders and others to get there, then there could be some interplay there. I don't know, that one doesn't quite fit right now in my mind. I'm not sure how that got up there, but I think there was some discussion around that. Energy Star, tracking that over time, and induction as a potential gateway to home electrification. That it isn't the one last product in the home that's held on for gas is the thought. We have all this infrastructure just for somebody's gas stove. Long-term impacts, 2035, induction stoves are the norm for new construction and existing single and multifamily homes. Served increase. Interesting. Okay, that reworded somehow. And then all new homes in California are built with induction, and 70% of stoves and cooktops sold are induction. That would be the long-term hopeful impacts of there. Next slide. Any more just general comments on this very conceptual early logic model? Randall?
I think on the strategic interventions, there's a lot of opportunities to, this is under the category of winning hearts and minds and that sort of thing, is to get in more, home improvement sorts of spaces, whether that's, designer magazines or something like that. And again, people who read designer magazines don't have homes like are in magazines. That's what they aspire to. So even if you can show the ESJ community, hey, this is what the rich people are doing, and this is what's cool, and this is what's, in vogue right now. I think that kind of, rather than saying you should use this compromised cooking device, say, hey, this is a high end product that are going into multi-million-dollar homes. Mm-hmm. You get the idea. And so, there's model home designers, and the cooking TV shows too.
Absolutely.
I think the British baking show they use, it's all electric. So, and there's a lot of top chefs, and other people say, well, professional chefs use gas, so, well, again, we need to communicate that. And I think maybe the hands-on cooking demonstrations, I mean, what Jeff said, with the gateway drug thing, I think that's part of it, but also, I don't know, maybe at county fairs, you let somebody boil a pot of water or fry an egg or, do something that they get a hands-on feel of, what it can do, that sort of thing. So anyway, I think there's a bunch of other ones, but I think, beyond the technology, beyond the, manufacturers' engagements, which are all important, I think there's also that more sort of, intervention with the actual users in terms of changing their perceptions.
The county had a healthy stores refrigeration program funded by the CDFA, and we had a couple of events where we had the communities come out to those healthy stores, bodegas, that we retrofitted their refrigerators, and then we had them do an inductive stove cooktop demonstration. We had a lot of Mexican Americans come and see, like, hey, you can cook with that, and it was really a great turnout. And They ask really good questions. Of course, you have to have it in, their native language. But yeah, they're very
Yeah, I
inquisitive.
think learning is doing is definitely
Mhm.
something like this. Maybe something we could, these are so probably getting to the external program review, there are a lot of programs already that are targeting this on the ground. And maybe our role would be to, work with manufacturers, get the product, but also to build resources that can then be replicated across a lot of these groups that are already targeting. I think that could be something that we could do. Okay. So a little bit about external program review. As I mentioned, there's quite a bit of activity here that we want to leverage and coordinate with. CalNext is doing a little bit on this. We want to work with them on that. Statewide all electrification programs with builders for sure. That this is getting builders to take this on. Some of that's already happening, but I think that that's an opportunity for, like Windows we talked about a little bit yesterday, if we get some production builders, this is a large demand signal that could help move others can come in their wake. Targeting affordable housing programs and income qualified residents. We talked already about that. We have an induction. I think we're going to do that in a few minutes, right? These centers where loaner programs, demonstration centers, these are all areas of potential leverage that are already happening. The online marketplaces, and then of course, again, the national collaboration. All familiar from some of the other work.
Can I just suggest another loaner? Public libraries have a lot of interesting loaner programs for tools and all kinds of different stuff.
Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, some of the research needs we've identified in the next phase. Again, a market characterization and including a baseline. This specifically, we think because the messaging and awareness building about this is going to be so important, we want to do some specific social cultural connections and interventions. We want to dig into the research on that next phase. This is work that the Cadmus team has identified to really understand what are the messages that would most resonate with the different groups. Some things around the opportunity for advancement improvement would be this drop-in replacement, the 120-volt product, the battery backup product. These are things that we want to investigate in the next phase about what's viable. Performance ratings and standards, where is that headed? And what could we have influence there? Product durability and efficiency. I think this is an interesting one. Maybe more misinformation, that these products may not last as long. We don't know, but we want to understand the manufacturer's point of view on that. Into air quality and ventilation efficiency, and then the gas electric infrastructure impacts of this. And what we talked about earlier about holding on to that one gas stove and what does that do? And we've suggested potentially 2 pilots through this. One would be with the SRPP and joint with the portables. And a second would be to engage some CBOs already and investigate the messaging needed, the barriers that they face in implementing, in installing these, and their reactions to these products. I think this is one we've looked at, and we're digging and trying to get some more detail on in the next couple of weeks. Next slide. There's the budget. So it's a little bit higher than portables.
So the market pilot, I think I know this, but the market pilot budgets are what would go into the summaries that we post. Correct? That one.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
You mean the pilot documents we're working on now? Okay.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Yes. More detail, much more detail on that. Okay. All right. Last slide. So again, as we develop these pilot scopes and get approval from CPUC, outreach the ESRPP along with portables, coordinate with external programs, really understand and learn and see if we've missed anything, implement our research scopes, just begin that outreach on external parties about who we can work with and leverage, and then some initial outreach with manufacturers on this are all some next steps that we're looking at. All right, I'm done.
Any other comments, questions for Elaine? Jeff?
One last question, and I'm just ignorant on this. Will Title 24, when it moves to all electric new construction, will it basically take care of this in new construction? I mean, if it's all electric, there will have to be at least radiant cooktops, and induction would be an option, upgrade option. Does anybody know when or if that actually is going to happen?
Um, whew. It's something to explore. I think, if you're specifically talking about cooking though, right? Yep. Yeah. I mean, cooking's unregulated load in Title 24. One possibility is to make it a regulated load, I suppose. I don't know what that would take. On the other hand, if the if and when the rest of Title 24 requires all electric for everything else, then you know and I've gone down this road before in this thought process a few times, and that would leave the only end use being a potentially gas end use would be cooking. And what does that mean to a builder? What does that mean to a homeowner? For those that say that you need to, your Lyft Uber driver, where you have to pry the gas stove out of their cold dead hands. What do you do? I think there's some of us on that building decarb Google chain that said, well, what about a 100-gallon propane tank outside for that cooktop? And people like Sean Armstrong just slam that kind of stuff down. Yeah, it's exactly. So we all know what he's anyway. So it's a controversial issue for one thing, but to some extent, I think the bigger part of it, whether it's in code or not, is changing the hearts and minds of people and consumers. Because if you do that, and it's economically better for everybody to not have to put in that last, gas supply for that last one remaining end use, then we don't have to worry about it anymore, and not have to worry about, what stick do we use to, make that happen. And as a historical perspective, I was reading the 1904 Pacific Coast Gas Association conference transit, the meeting minutes, and they're talking about, oh my God, we're losing our biggest end use, which is lighting. What do we do? And somebody said, well, we could start selling stoves. And, one guy said, I sold 11 of them in Los Angeles last year. There's a market for that,
Randall, I'm going to get you a podcast, I think.